Okay, in 3.3e we are clearing decimals, and just like fractions, you can only clear these decimals when you have equations, and that's why we love equations. Okay, please notice. Oh. Okay, notice if you take the decimal 12.3 and multiply it by 10, your result is 123. Okay, if you multiply 12.34 times 100, your result is 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you multiply this whole 12.345 times 1,000, you get that. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to verify that that happens when we multiply by powers of 10. We love powers of 10. So the shortcut is, notice how many zeros are in the 10. There's 1, and how many places did we end up moving the decimal? We ended up moving it over 1, because a decimal here at the end, if we have 123 point nothing, that's just the way to write 123. In the second example, we have 2 zeros. The result of multiplying by 100 moves the decimal over 2 places, and that's where it ended up. If you have 3 zeros, the effect is multiplying or moving that decimal over 3 places to end up right here. So the shortcut is just notice how many places you want to move the decimal, and that's what you're going to move the decimal for everybody. So you're going to choose that by looking at the most number of digits behind the decimal. We need to see an example to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so in this first example, we have 0.6x, blah, 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 blah. So right now I'm interested in how many digits there are after the decimal. There's 1, there's 1, there's 1, and there's 1. So if we move everybody's decimal over 1 place to the right, what we're really doing is multiplying by 10. But the shortcut for that is just move the decimals. So the result would be move that decimal over 1 place, 6x. Move that decimal over 1 place over, 229. Move it over 1 place to get 15x minus 184. So does that look easier? I think it does. So I'm just going to complete this, and I'm going to try to be quiet because I think I'm getting a little bit hoarse. What did I do in that step? Okay, you'll notice it's a little bit more obvious over here on the right. I went from this to just a minus 184. So I got rid of that 15x some way. How did I do it? I subtracted 15x from this side, so that means I subtracted 15x from that side. Does that look like the result? Yeah, so now let's add 229 to both sides. We would get negative 9x equals, and I'm going to do this over on the side. Oh, this is wonderful. Negative 184 plus 229. Do you remember how we do that? We're adding two numbers that have different signs. So the signs are different, so we find the difference. So I just go, okay, what is the difference between 229 and 184? And when I find that difference, I get 45. So the difference is 45. That's the number part, and then the sign depends on which number is bigger. Ignoring the sign, so I go, oh, the positive is bigger, so we get a positive 45. Divide both sides by a negative 9. X equals a negative 5. So there's nothing from this point on is problems that you already know how to do. Okay, another one with decimals. So I notice 1 digit behind the decimal, 1 digit, 2 digits, and 1 digit. So that means we've got to move every decimal over 2 places to get that digit over to the right. So if we move the decimal over 2 places here, so let me kind of do that first one for you. Move that decimal over 2 places, 1, 2. It ends up here. Well, we need to put in something here to hold its place, and that's going to be a 0. So we get 10y plus, move that decimal over 2 places, 3.8, 1, 2, we need to put something there, so that becomes a 0, so we get plus 380 equals 572 minus 30y. I'm going to add 30y to both sides. I'm going to subtract 380 from both sides. And that would give me 198. Did I do that right? I mean 192. Let me check that. 572 minus 380, 192. Divide both sides by 40. Y equals 192 divided by 40. Do not panic if that doesn't go in there evenly. That's okay. We just rewrite this as a simplified fraction. So let's work on getting this fraction simplified. Well, I know that, let's see, 4 goes into both of those. So 4 into 192 would go 48 and then 10. And we can simplify that even further because 2 goes into both of those. Y equals 24 divided by 5. Okay, next one. Let's see where I am on my time. So we've got, let me move this up a little bit. Okay, so remember, just like with fractions, if you have parentheses, get rid of the parentheses first, and by getting rid of them, I mean just go ahead and use the distributive property to see what you have. So before we worry about getting rid of our decimals, just like fractions, we're going to multiply that out. Result, 0.4x plus 1.2 equals 0.3x minus 1.8. I notice everybody has one digit behind the decimal, so if we move everybody's decimal over one place, 4x plus 12 equals 3x minus 18. Ooh, does that look nicer? Subtract 3x from both sides. Leaves us 1x over here. It disappears on this side. Subtract 12 from both sides. We end up with x equals a negative 30. Okay, I am missing a problem here. There it is. Okay, oh, I love this problem. I see one digit behind the decimal, none, none, and one digit. So if we want to get rid of that decimal, we have to move the decimal over one place for everybody. So let's see what we've got. That becomes 47x. Now this one, I'm going to put this down here. I don't see a decimal at all, so we know it's right here at the end, but we still got to move it over one place. So we've got to fill that in with a 0, so that becomes 10 equals, move that decimal over one place, and that becomes 20x minus 17. So let's just continue this. Subtract 20 from both sides. Subtract 10 from both sides. And divide by 27. We get x equals a negative 1. So I think that is a pretty good indication of how you can easily go from a problem that looks kind of complicated to a problem that, oh, you're just so used to doing this kind of problem. In one step, you can get rid of fractions and you can get rid of decimals by multiplying by the LCD. But with decimals, there's sort of a shortcut. You just think, I just need to move that decimal over. Okay, that concludes section 3.3. Whew, that was a long one. I will see you in the next section.